Hey, what's up, y'all? Got some more rhythm stuff for you from this book that I am writing, to be titled soon. I was thinking about this dream fever concept, so we're going to get right into the thick of it and work through some things. I have my notes here, and I have my iPad with my metronome on it. Look how cute. I've got my metronome, pro metronome app. The nice thing about this exercise is we do not have to use a specific metronome. I'm setting this metronome at 40. You can also set your metronome to 160 and just count basically in 3/4, but we're counting 16th notes. So I'm going to talk about a couple of concepts here that I think are helpful that I've learned. And the reason that I'm putting these things in a book together is that I had to search far and wide for these concepts. And I felt like once I found them, I felt like they all needed to be in one place, because if you saw the number of books that I have in my house and you knew how my family felt about the number of books in my house, you would want it to be in one place too. So let's start. So again, the dream fever thing, it's in 3/4, 6/8, however you want to think of it. Or 6/4. It's because it's basically like a one cycle and it repeats each bar twice. So this is going to sound like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and top, right? For the sake of this exercise. So I have my metronome here set, and it's going to sound like a drum set. It's going to have a bass drum on the first beat and then like hi-hat for the other 11 beats. And I want to talk about the fact that 6/8, 3/4, and now 12/8, 6/4, all of these things are related. And the reason that I think that I needed someone to really break this down for me is that I would hear things a certain way because I didn't know that I wasn't placing my musical intention in a certain way. And so what ends up happening, and this kind of leads itself to the mental health part of the book, is that we can all hear music. We're all given that, if we can hear it, just audibly. Now, the depth of that listening is a different story entirely, and then performing it is a different story entirely. There are people who are amazing mixing and mastering producers and all kinds of other jobs that involve the recording aspect or listening aspect or conducting or directing, that might have issues playing, or maybe they're some of the best players. I really think it depends on how much work you put in, and then also how aware of the work you are. So, getting to it, 3 minutes in, let's see if we can hear this. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and stop. I'm going to stop. So there's like 20 different things I want to talk about. We're just going to start first with the thinking of this in terms of each beat being in one, which was a concept that I heard about but didn't really dig into until pretty recently, which is to just slow everything down. And so let's take this away from the metronome. So the 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and is like the traditional way to subdivide each beat. So another way we can think about this is just think about each beat as being a beat and not a subdivision of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. And the reason this is important when we're working on stuff slowly is we can get the idea of the number of notes we're talking about and then where our accents are. So this groove in Dream Fever by Patrick Morena is in this 3/4 with kind of a 4/4 against it. So if I'm going to count the subdivisions, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 1. So those kind of work, in tandem with one another because you've got 3 beats. So let's try it a different way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Simple enough. Or maybe that's difficult, which I want to stop and talk about that. Because in this book, I'm hoping that there's a way that I will translate some of these kind of, I want to call them like mental health lessons, based on what I've experienced as a musician. And I was talking earlier with someone about this, that growing up, we have this really funny concept. And I know this is a tangent, just bear with me, but I promise we're going to get to the rhythm. But we had this concept that if you tried to write with your non-dominant hand, so I'm a lefty, right? If you tried to write with your right hand, it would give you brain damage. Like, this was like elementary school playground talk. It was very silly. But what would happen when I would write with my right hand is I would feel like this kind of tension, almost like just like onset of stress, right? I didn't know what it was because I was a child. But then I started to feel that come back as an adult when I would try to do these like rhythmic things on my hands separately together, right? And I realized that like having that coordination and doing things in a coordinated way can sometimes be, if we want to use the word trigger, unfortunately that might be a thing, but it might be a stress trigger, right? Or it might be like, it causes like maybe mild nausea. I would feel sick to my stomach every time I would try to do something that wasn't comfortable. But then as I got older, I realized that that was just a sensation. And if I just kind of breathe through it, stop for a second and go, okay, that's annoying. And recognize the feeling, give myself a second and go, okay, I can do this. I just need to slow it down or whatever it is. So in this case, like let's say that was difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would do the composite rhythm, which is what I talked about last time, where you put it together and you do both hands at the same time. So if you have problems snapping, you can just clap it together, tap on your knees or whatever you need to do, and you do these things together. So then that way your body gets used to that kind of unison rhythm happening. And then when you start to separate it, the hand is already, or the limb or wherever your vocalization, it's already gotten practice doing it. You're just now isolating that. Does that make sense? It's kind of like if you're on a piano and that's part of the book is like, we don't all have pianos. We don't all have drum sets. But if you were thinking conceptually about a pianist having an issue separating two things, they might do it both with both hands, play like the right hand part with both hands, and then the left hand part with both hands, and then start working on it together. So in that case, let's just do this idea. So I'll give myself 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Simple enough. And and it can feel like rudimentary to do that, but then you separate it and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 kind of thing. So we're starting there. And then this is the idea of keeping things in one. Now we're going to switch to this kind of 12/8, and the reason it's called 12/8 is because it's 12 individual eighth notes, right? Even though it would be technically 16, we're not going to get into the technicalities of it, because this is about more working on the rhythm and not the way it's notated. So the thing that I want to focus on now is, now we're thinking groups of 3, so it's 4 groups of 3, whereas before we had 3 groups of 4. And this is what makes 12/8 and 6/4, to me, it makes it a little more complicated and dicey than your traditional 4/4, 2/4, cut time, whatever, because you're now focusing on an odd number of beats that can be subdivided, or an even number of beats that can subdivide it into odd number of pulses or something like that. So like 12 becomes 3, or 4 becomes 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I hope this is starting to make some sense. You may need to take some time with this, because the next big step, once this is comfortable without the metronome, you bring it to the metronome, and we're working on what I like to call drowning the beat. We want to be right in the dead center when we're working on this, so we know what that feels like first. Is what I like to call the grid view of the music, because a lot of technical aspects of rhythm and placement of these notes on a timeline, or in the sense of feel, comes from the style of music, and it comes from, a recognition that this is how this works. These fundamentals are here, and as we're subdividing, we're able to find, oh yeah, so this lays back just a little bit at these tempos and things like this, and these are like higher level concepts that I feel like we're setting the bedrock, right? So these are like, even though this may be a little bit complicated, this is kind of the fundamental work of getting kind of rhythms down. So the next step of this, if we're thinking in one, is to break the bar in half into 2 even units of 6. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then we're feeling the big pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bringing that quarter note feel to it, which is every 4 beats. So I might need to do this a little slower, because this is something I started working on, and this is another big thing. Don't be afraid to fail, because this is going to teach you where your deficiencies are and where you need to work on things and how you need to work on things. I think one of the big lies we tell in music is there's people who got it, there's people who don't have rhythm, people who do. I think at any age you can learn to play rhythms, because they're there. They've always been there. The thing that makes you shake your ass is the same thing that'll make you move and try to reproduce that sound. So in this case, the 6, the 6/8. So we got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this hand's going to try to do the 4. And so it's going to be every 4 beats. So if we just think about that mathematically, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's how you can get your 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And this concept of thinking in one, we give ourselves a little more freedom to see, okay, so this is, if we've talked about phrases and like how to say things fast, like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and a 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And there's reasons that we verbalize these the way that we do, but I think this is a good way to get an idea of like, okay, if I have 6 beats, it's on this part of the beat that now I'm feeling, that I'm feeling this quarter note in this strange and different way. I'm not necessarily feeling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these different things could be something that you're feeling, but what we're trying to achieve with working on rhythm is really finding that place of intention of our, I would say that, our intention of the beat, our intention of the rhythm that we're playing and we're feeling. I had a great teacher once say that, like, when you're playing music, it's going to feel like you're sitting on the very edge of your chair and you're about to fall a lot of the time if you're doing it right. because it is work. We don't act like it is, but it's like you have to be very focused, and the minute you stop focusing is the minute usually some stuff starts to creep in that's not what you intended, and that's good to know. So so as we continue to go back and forth with this, let's turn this back on. 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4 1 2 3 2 2 3 3 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 2 2 3 3 2 3 4 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. And so you can take each of those, and the next step would be to add another rhythm to it and stick with one feel, right? And this, I think, is the essence of great rhythmic practice, is being able to functionally have these subdivisions work no matter what feel is happening. And there's a lot of really cool modern music where you'll hear this kind of polyrhythmic stuff happening. If you've ever heard like Dawn of Midi or Horse Lords, anything from Miles Okazaki, Dan Weiss, Linda O is another big one. You're going to hear like a lot of rhythms interacting, but they sound like one unit. And that's kind of the bigger picture here, is if I just turn this on and I don't say anything, your body's going to respond a certain way. So as a musician working on things, I think it's important to find those spots of weakness and then to focus in on them without evaluation, and to really dive into the stuff where you're like, oh, I haven't thought about that on this song. Because the minute you start doing that, that informs the rest of the piece, right? And it may be specific to, rhythm-driven music, but I really feel like classical music can feel differently if you're thinking of the rhythms in a certain way, or folk songs, or whatever it ends up being. So one of the next things I want to try is, now that we have the basis of 3 different types of feels, let's do a 4th feel, right? I call this like big 6, right? So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to break those up into 2 groups of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which can also be translated to 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Or if you're crazy, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. You're not crazy. We don't use that word. So now that you have 4 different types of feel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. I change the tempo. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. So now that you take it in all those different ways, we want to start adding the actual rhythms that we can play on top of that, especially when we get into improvisation or something like that. So then we hear what it sounds like when things are perfectly locked in. So I'm going to start with the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? Your triplet feel, because I feel like that ends up getting neglected. And since we're slow, it can be like it feels almost like a waltz, right? So, but what I want to do to make this difficult, and to also keep my independence strong, and this might take a little while, so bear with yourself, and you may need to break it down, and I'll show you how to do that. But do the first and the last beat, so we're almost doing like a swing, kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. But I want to add in that quarter note pulse of this 3, 4 over this. So let's first do a composite rhythm so we see what it sounds like in 3, and then we're going to do it in 12 with the 3 over it. So if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. I want to put in every 4 notes an accent. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to have to go, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Yeah. So you see how this starts to get a little difficult. So 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Wow. Okay. Slow it down. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this in the 4 is going to sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, I got to think about it now. Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 1. Right? Oh, I forgot the last one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it'd be 1, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There we go. Got it. See, but I wanted you to see me make those mistakes. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but the whole point is like you want to work out these edges where you feel uncomfortable, right, with your practice and go, I can do this. I just need to see what it is that I am doing wrong. And this is a good way to evaluate it kind of objectively, is to do it all yourself. Don't have anybody else with you. Because, it's like going to the gym and picking up too much weight because somebody's pushing themselves really hard. You want to figure out exactly where it is that you're ironing things out, because this isn't a labor-intensive activity. It's a connection between the mind and the body. And as long as you're taking that time to figure out, okay, this is how this shit all works together, this is going to be the way that we can really solidify my time. Because then there's the next step. And you're like, wait, there can't be a next step. This is already so much to do. And it's like, that's what I'm getting at. This is the beginning of the book, by the way. So these are the first couple of chapters, is just getting all of this rhythmic stuff in a basic way. The next step is to do this all with the metronome and be able to count your different types of subdivisions. So in 4, in 3, etc., right? And then have the metronome go in and out and make sure that your pulse is steady. Because one of the things I want to talk about in the book, and we're going to get really heavy into this, is the grid, which is literally like putting your rhythms on a grid, on a grid pattern. And the advent of like polished electronic music as well as polished pop music, because we're a little bit at war right now, which is great. But what we need to work on and focus on is the skills that I believe that, live musicians should consider now that recorded music is getting more and more polished. Is there's ways of physically working on things so we can compete with computers. It's what it's starting to sound like, but it's not a war against AI or anything, but, there is a very tangible thing that happens with, our relationship to music and how things have changed even in the last 10 years. The music has gotten a lot better in terms of quality and precision, especially really difficult artistic music. And most of my reason for writing this book is the impetus to focus on, playing this difficult music. Because I feel like, what I'm doing is very rudimentary, but it's all the basics, it's making sure that when I go to play this stuff that I've really ironed it out. And because, it's a different experience when you're doing it with just your fingers on the bass or whatever, or you're just doing it on the saxophone, or for those playing monophonic instruments versus those playing like string instruments versus those playing piano. It's like there's a lot of different ways of doing this. So we are at like the 25-minute mark here. So thank you so much for watching all of this. I hope this is helpful. I hope this garners some interest for the book, and I will talk to you soon.